EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition, an overreaction Monday edition of Birds 365 following a Week 6 win. Johnny Mack for the Philadelphia Eagles, 20-16, and they moved to 3-2 on the year. Got a great show planned for everybody today. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Monday morning?
I'm doing fine. I don't know if the coach is doing fine, but I'm doing fine. Yeah.
What was up with that, John? We'll get into that. We got Jeff Kerr coming up in hour number 1. We have Chris Franklin coming up in hour number 2. We got great people playing today. We got to appreciate everybody in the chat for being here. Look, John, I'll say this, right? A win is a win. Is it fair to say that a win is a win, and that's what we take from this game, Johnny Mack? Before we get into the coach and
a win is a win, and I think if you look at the rest of the NFC East, a positive day overall for the Philadelphia Eagles from just a standing standpoint. And moving forward, I think, there's no reason they shouldn't win this division, can't win this division. But overall, I mean, yeah, a lot of stuff. I don't know what to make of what I saw yesterday, other than it was surreal. And it wasn't good. I know that. So from the standpoint of you should be talking about a win, albeit one without style points and all that nonsense, which doesn't matter at the end of the day. That's what you should be talking about. And we'll talk some about the football, I'm sure. But it was completely overshadowed by the behavior of the head coach, who seems to be at a point where, I'm framing it like this. Philadelphia's obviously tired and again, I'm saying the vast majority is obviously tired of Nick Sirianni. And I think we've reached the point to where it's reciprocal. And that is an ugly, ugly point. I think he's tired of it.
Yep. Well said.
And that's where I ended up after thinking about it and going, what the? Because that was bizarre. That was bizarre.
It really was to watch him do that. And it's just unbecoming of a head coach. I had an issue with it as a fan, just like, those are the people that support the team through thick and thin. Those are the people that essentially pay your salary with the way they support the football team.
I'm not going to go down that route either, because that's bullshit. But it's part of the job. And I guarantee you he got a talking to from Jeffrey Lurie after the game. I guarantee you that. Now, I'm not going to play into that because they're booing from the first 3 and out.
Well, yeah, but that's
so support the team through thick and thin. No, I'm not buying that.
Oh, bullshit, John. Philadelphia fans have been fan for 50 fucking years, John.
I'm saying I don't give a shit how you look at yourselves.
Yeah, well, I'm saying though, the support of the fan base
thick and thin. Thick and thin means thick and thin. Don't phrase it like that then. I'm not saying they're not passionate. I would argue they're too passionate. That's a different conversation. And that's where I get to the point. I got news for you. You may not want to hear it, but behind the scenes, they don't give a shit. But it's part of it. But it's part of running a business, playing into it's the most passionate fan base, which it is the most passionate fan base. Oh, we love the fan. And the same press conference where Nick Sirianni's, he's out there being Hulk Hogan, cupping his ear, taunting fans after a win, taunting his own fans after a win. And then he's out there, oh, we love the support. We're getting false starts. And then he was asked, well, what about the booing? What about the fire Nick chants? And we love the support when we get support, basically, which is what it is. But I mean, let's be honest, there's no quicker fan base in America that will turn on their team quicker than, and you could say it's high standards, fine. I have no problem with
Yeah, but
that.
turning on you in Philadelphia does not mean they do not support their team, John. Like someone, look, these fans are lifelong fans. They bleed. They're
I'm
born
not
an Eagle fan.
arguing
They
that.
die an Eagle fan. Nick Sirianni is a blip in the radar in terms of that. I get what you're saying. They're hard on him. We are hard on him. But
Here's
to
how
say
I'll
we don't
describe it.
support through the hard times, I
Look,
think is wrong.
when Nick got upset about the slow starts and saying, well, the defense didn't start slow, and he's playing semantics. We're not talking about the defense. We're talking about the offense that has 1 first down on their starting drives. The only team in the NFL that hasn't scored in the first quarter. Do I really need to spell it out to you, head coach, what we're talking about? So I'll call him on that, but I'll say the same thing. Do I really need to spell it out to you what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about the stuff you're talking about. I'm talking about through thick and thin. That narrative is bullshit. That's it.
Sorry, I
It's
just
through bullshit. And if they're 3-14, guess what? This is a very entitled fan base because they've had an extensive period. I've always said the most entitled fan base is Green Bay because they've had Hall of Fame quarterback play for going on 30 plus years, and they don't know how the other half lives. Most of these teams have really, really bad seasons. The Eagles have the occasional blip in the radar and then get right back. Ever since Andy Reid got here, it's a very, very entitled fan base. And I'm not going to lie about that. Same as I'm not going to lie about Nick Sirianni playing cement. Oh, we're talking about slow. You know what we're talking about. We spell it out. The offense hasn't scored the first quarter. We're not talking about the defense.
Jalen Hurts mentioned it in his on-field interview after the game. He didn't even have to get asked about it by the press. He mentioned the slow starts.
Yeah, they know. So that part's bullshit, but there's bullshit from both sides, and that's why I say Philadelphia's tired of Nick Sirianni, and Nick Sirianni's tired of Philadelphia. And usually when that happens, it gets ugly.
Yeah.
And I think we're at the point where it's kind of getting ugly, and the only thing that's going to save it is just how bad the NFC East is. And probably the NFC North beating up on each other. Because those 4 teams got to play each other a bunch of times. And the Eagles are going to skate to the playoffs or should skate to the playoffs. And who knows? Maybe you figure things out by that point. But right now, that's the only way Nick Sirianni can save himself. And he's at the Doug Peterson point where I don't know if he wants to save himself. That's where I am.
I think you're right about that. I do.
That's where I am.
I
don't even know if he wants to save himself.
That's what yesterday was. It was a showing of I don't give an F anymore.
That's what I said.
Yep.
I'm writing that this morning for Sports Illustrated.
Yep.
And I use that term. I have this expletive out.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. That's exact term I've used.
Yeah, well, I think you might be right about that. And look, to be fair to him, somebody did put it in the chat. We are a pain in the ass to deal with. I'm not saying that. I would just push back on the notion that we bail on you when it's tough times.
They're bailing on Nick Sirianni. He's got the highest winning percentage in franchise history. He's made the postseason 3 times.
How do you define bailing? Booing at
do they want him out?
Is booing at games
again?
bailing?
And I'm not talking about everybody.
But John, I said this yesterday. He's not the coach of the Nick Siriannis. He's the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. To say that we bail on the Philadelphia Eagles is wrong. Do we bail on Nick? Sure. But we do not bail on the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm not saying they bail on the laundry. They got the laundry in the closet. Doesn't matter who puts it on. They're rooting for laundry, as Jerry Seinfeld will say. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't entirely blame Nick. We're a pain in the balls. I get it.
The assumption through thick and thin to me means the individuals on the team as well, which has never been the case. Now, if you want to have a different definition, I'll agree with you. Yeah, they ain't turning on the laundry ever. But that's laundry. they'll turn on the people wearing the laundry very, very quickly. Very quickly.
Let's get into some of the football yesterday, John. Like you said at the open, and I said this before we even started our post-game show yesterday. I'm like, that's a tough game to have a lot of takeaways in the football. And I thought Jalen Hurts had a nice game. I thought he was efficient with the ball. I thought he had a solid game. Obviously had that slow start again, but that's not all on him. John, I question the way that they try and get him ramped up into games. Like, why do we have 3 routes 30 yards up the sideline when the quarterback hasn't completed a pass yet? Can we make it a little bit easier? But I don't know the workings of it. Maybe Jalen checked into some of those plays. But from an offensive standpoint, I thought the team was solid. Defensively, I read that Deshaun Watson completed 100% of his passes in the second half. But then I look and I'm like, they had 9 freaking points on offense because they had the blocked field goal. So I can't beat up on the defense. It was one of those weird games. Football-wise, John, what were your takeaways from this game?
Yeah, well, very strong day for the defense, but again, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how much you can take from that because Cleveland is so bad on offense right now. 2 reasons, mainly the quarterback, but also, I mean, they have so many injuries, and they lost Nick Harris, who's their backup center, early in the game, so they're down to their 3rd-team center. Then they lose Ford, their running back, who's their backup, and then they're down to their 3rd and 4th string running backs. I mean, the offensive line is all over the place. It's just a disaster. And then you have descending play. I don't know what happened to Amari Cooper, but he's not Amari Cooper anymore. You have descending players, most notably Deshaun Watson, but others. So, I mean, they should have dominated, and they pretty much did. As you mentioned, they didn't give up a touchdown. The only Browns touchdown was on the blocked field goal.
Yeah.
And in the modern NFL, I mean, that's as good as it gets, especially for a team that's struggling. Came in with 6 sacks. They got 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. Even Bryce Up got on the board. We'll see if they take it off the board for the poor guy.
Yeah. When will we find that out? I've since you said that on the post game, I've been waiting to look.
Usually happens Monday or Tuesday at the latest. If he makes it to Wednesday, he's good. But they had more pass rush than usual, but I don't know how that translates moving forward. We have to see it against better competition. And then even the offense and Lane Johnson called it constipated after the game.
That was a great quote.
I mean, yeah, Lane tells the truth. So, but you see the like the difference with AJ on the field. All right, we're in trouble, and some of it is, the comfort is all right. AJ on a go route, and he's pulling the football away from Martin Emerson or what whomever, and catching these crazy things, and that's where the consistency doesn't come in because you can't do that every time. But big spot again. And Kevin Stefanski, I mean, I would have went for it. You talk about a dumb team. They get 2 false starts when they're down. They're only in the red zone. Nobody was in the red zone all day. And Cleveland finally gets in there in the end. And they're on the cusp of going in. You get a false start, you get another false start. And then it becomes, and I heard some of the Browns reporters talking, and they said, well, you can't go for it there. But they're not getting the ball back. I saw this with Antonio Pierce. You're not getting the ball back. So you might as well take a shot in the end zone. It probably doesn't work. I'm going to say that. But the Eagles get the ball at, 3:54 left, and they're kneeling it out. Perfect 4-minute offense again. This team, as weird as it is, as crappy as they've been on offense, when they get the opportunity, they have the best 4-minute offense in football. They do. And I don't know why it takes them so long to figure it out, or I don't even know if it does take them that long to figure it out. I think it's more about execution. But I think a big part of it is Jalen Hurts. In that moment, he becomes relevant in the run game, and they're like, "Fuck, it's going to be the theme of the show against." They're like, "Fuck it, all right, we got to go win a game. Let's take the reins off Jalen in the run game," and then it becomes, you know, they win it with an option. He's quarterback draws, and he's getting 6 yards, and it's second and short, third and short, and they go win the game.
What'd you think of the Jalen play call that he checked to on the last play to ice it?
I mean, it worked. But by the way, I got our first person ever. I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, I want to give them credit. I have to look it up. Somebody actually said that's a bad decision, and it worked out. But if you
That
keep
was
doing it,
everywhere, yeah. I saw that all over the place.
are you serious? I talk about that all the time.
I know you do. I'm saying I thought yesterday was a case where I think it was obvious to people it was a questionable decision.
Well,
but
that is
because it
the
worked-
first time. That is the first time I've ever heard somebody say, "You know what? That's probably not a good decision, despite the result." And yeah, it's probably not a good decision, despite the result.
I don't
And
have
you
too
see,
much. Yeah, I mean, I did think it was risky, boy. Whew. You're lucky AJ Brown's as good
well,
as
I
he
don't know
is.
how risky it was, but it was second in 11, I believe.
Well, you would have stopped the clock there, and I believe the Browns had one more timeout after that.
Yeah, but they were at where were they? Let me
So you
look.
put yourself in a 3rd and long where you're going to try and run to obviously extend the clock, and then
They're
eh,
they're
yeah,
they're they're second and 11 at their 48. So worst case scenario, even if it's intercepted. That I don't know if that wouldn't be the worst case scenario. That's why I say it. Even if it's intercepted, he caught it at the Cleveland 12. It's like a punt, and they're not going the distance with that offense with even one timeout. So I don't know how risky it was, but and again, if it's just an incompletion, then you can just run the ball and punt it, and who cares? Again, hopefully Braden Mann, you know, pushes him back inside the 20. But even if it's a touchback, um, it's not going to hurt you. So I don't know how risky it was against that team in that situation, but
that's
I
fair.
will agree it's not the best decision at that point. But it worked out. There's a
Right,
perfect
well,
example of what I talked about.
yeah.
And I don't know, you said you saw the bench. I never get it. You hear me on this show. Everybody doesn't. I
I
say it
just
all
saw
the
it a
time.
couple times browsing yesterday, and I think a couple people in our chat said it as well. Tough decision, but I mean,
Good.
look, you go to your playmaker there. I don't have too much of a problem with it. I would just say if it didn't work out, it might have been it might have been
I
judged
mean, against
harshly.
against a different opponent, and maybe
Yeah,
that
right.
entered
I think
into
you added
Jalen.
some really good context there.
Yeah, and maybe that factored into Jalen's decision, the opponent. And if it did, you have to give him credit. It's never going to say yes or no, but he lost the game in Seattle by doing that. That different circumstance, obviously, but if he was patient there, you probably get a field goal and win the game. But yeah, I didn't think it was a great decision, but
Any update?
it worked out. So, but maybe people were so upset about the play as a whole.
Yeah, worked out. John, I'm sure that the answer to this is no, but just for the people in the chat that are asking for it, we have no updates on the injuries, right? I mean, we're not going to have them for at least probably till tomorrow or Wednesday.
No, yeah, probably. Well, they'll have to
Probably
put in an
longer.
injury report. Jordan was Mailata on crutches,
Yeah, that
not
looks
feeling
bad.
well. Yeah, so I don't think Jordan Mailata is going to be back quickly.
I mean, I put out after the game, that could be your biggest takeaway of this game. Seriously, if you lose Jordan Mailata for an extended period,
Yeah,
that's going to be a
and I think
problem.
then you got to start thinking about Mekhi Becton at left tackle
Yeah,
and Tyler Steen at
right. Yep.
right guard. Um, but there's so much movement you got to have around. I don't know if you want to do that. Um,
Yeah,
We'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
with Jeff Stoutland. I mean, Fred Johnson held up, but it was a very short period. They actually won the game with Fred. So, but yeah, I don't know if that's sustainable because you saw what happened in Tampa Bay. I don't know how many pressures he gave up. I stopped counting, but and that was at right tackle. You can imagine at left tackle.
Good stuff, John. We have 2 super chats. There's a bunch of dudes we got to talk about, and we'll do that. We got Jeff Kerr coming up. Can't wait to talk to Jeff. Jeff, I got a feeling this is going to be a good one for us, brother. After Nick Sirianni starts mouthing off to the crowd, we got a good segment coming up. But I got to talk about Moro Ajomo, Johnny Mack making plays out there. Cooper DeJean. We'll talk about Cooper DeJean. Before we get to our commercial break, let's rip some 2 of these super chats we got from Mark and Prince. Appreciate you both. Mark checks in. Eagles could have easily scored again in the final minute, making the final score 27 or 28-16. This win had plenty of quality, blowout or not. The 23 Eagles do not come back to win this game. I don't know, Mark. I did see some semblance, but I see what you're saying there. I mean, take away the blocked field goal, this game wasn't even close, but that obviously tipped the scales a lot going into halftime. Appreciate your super chat, John. John, any response to Mark before I move on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, comeback? What are they coming back from? I mean, coming back from
they didn't come back. I mean, they were up the whole game. But
so I don't know. I mean, if the block field, and that's a great individual play by Myles Garrett for people
that was insane, that play.
Yeah, I mean, but and that was just dumb decision making to put him in a position to try a 57-yard field goal. By a bunch of people, not just the head coach, although the head coach took credit for it. That's another thing. That guy's, if people can't figure out what he's doing there, I can't help you. He's just trying to fall on his sword and be admirable or whatever, altruistic, whatever you want to call it, to try to protect everybody else. But yeah, if you look at that situation that pushed him back to a 57-yard field goal, that's really the ugly part. But yeah, they didn't come back from anything. Now, again, Cleveland had a chance to win the game when it got down there and started false starting all over the place. But yeah, then we would have seen something. But obviously, they shot themselves in the foot.
Yep, I said that last night repeatedly on the post-game show. Prince checks in. Since Shane left, this team has consistently had a slow start with the new offensive coordinator. Who is in charge of the game plan? The game plan is the problem.
Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore.
There you go. That's 7 times John just said Kellen Moore for your Prince. I hope he answered your question. Good stuff there. We'll get to our commercial break. Jeff Kerr. Looking forward to talking to Jeff coming up next here on Birds 365. Before I get to our break, let me tell you about the great people at BetUS. Look at that promo code on the screen, everybody. Up to 150% sign-up bonus using the promo code YouTube150. So go to betus.com.pa and use that promo code, and then you get 125% on your second and third deposit, and it's all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at betus.com. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So go check out BetUS today, a big sponsor of JAKIB Sports, so we appreciate them for sponsoring the show. We'll be back in 3 minutes with the greatness of Jeff Kerr coming up next.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 of an Overreaction Monday, joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Monday morning?
Probably better than John is, because John got to watch that 15 minutes of whatever that was Nick Sirianni was doing yesterday.
Boy, you know, typically I'm a frequent questioner. I was just sitting back and watching that, and I was particularly paying attention to two Eagles executives that spend a lot of time around Nick Sirianni and their reactions, and they weren't good, at least one of them. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it, but it ain't good. That's what I said. What are your thoughts? Because I'm still trying to figure out what I saw.
Yeah. So when Nick was talking, I was interviewing AJ Brown at the time, and we're talking about Nick's actions with the fans and all that stuff. And AJ Brown was another player that defended Nick. Devonta Smith did, Lane Johnson did. Jalen Carter said he didn't see what happened. But so when we got back to the press box, I started watching a news conference, and like 2 minutes in, I'm like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? To me, from just 2 minutes in, it felt like he was using his kids to shield questions that may come his way.
Yeah, I know. That's how I don't know if I took it that way. If that were, and Mike Sealski wrote a good column, and that was Mike's take. I don't know if I took it that way, because he does it all the time. It's annoying, to be honest, and stop doing it, Nick, but he's not going to listen to me. But it's annoying. If he was trying to deflect, it didn't work. He got asked every relevant question, and he didn't handle it well.
I didn't like when he said, well, you guys make it a story. No, Nick. You make it a story because you don't score in the first quarter. The Eagles haven't scored in the first quarter in the first 5 games for the first time since 1934. If you look up the 1934 Eagles, there's a guy named Swede Hansen on there. That was their first.
Swede Hansen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
their first.
The other thing is, Jeff, he's not fooling anybody. Jalen Hurts wasn't even asked about it on the on-field interview, and he brought up the slow starts, unprompted. On the field, before he even had a chance to digest the game, he brought up, we got to start quicker. We're struggling with the slow starts. Like, Nick acts like it's this created talking point by the media. Dude, we haven't scored in the first quarter in 6 games.
And you know what's sad? There are
7
people,
if you count the playoff game.
Yeah,
the 2 games last year, 5 games this year. Yeah. But here's the number. Here's the numbers. 5 games, so 5 drives to start, 16 plays for 12 yards, 3 3-and-outs, an interception, and 1 first down. And that's what we're talking about. And he's trying to say, well, what does that have to do with the defense? Well, I didn't bring up the defense. Nobody else brought up the defense. We're talking about the offense, the slow starts of the offense.
The
And
side of the ball that you're supposedly the genius on.
Yeah. Well, that's his expertise on that side of the football. That's supposed to be. And he's trying to play, oh, the defense played pretty well. And that's another conversation because they did, but shouldn't they against the Cleveland Browns and what they're rolling out there these days? So I'm not sure how much you can take from that. But the whole thing was just so bizarre, Jeff. I mean, he's yelling, he's taunting his own fans. He's taunting Cleveland Browns. He's bringing his kids up. I don't know. Hey, other people have to diagnose breakdowns, but my God, there's a certain, what do you call it? No selling, whatever you want to call it. He gets booed all the time. Yes, people were trying to start a Fire Nick chant. I'm sure that's not the best time of his life. He's talking about the players coming to him and saying, we need the old Nick. And Brandon Graham said he did that, and Jalen Hurts said he did that. So there's something to it, but what does that even mean? The old Nick stomping on the stands and yelling at Indianapolis fans for, some knucklehead firing Frank Reich or screaming at Kansas City fans who didn't even know he was a low-level assistant. What is that? What does that mean? The old Nick, Jeff Kerr.
Yeah, maybe the old Nick is the new Nick. And I wish I was good enough to play in this league and taunt. So I'm going to do it as a coach, a successful coach. But again, I didn't like last year when he did the thing with the Chiefs fans. I don't know what happened with the Colts fans, but again, John, it's back to that whole creating adversity thing. Well, you're creating it. You're doing this to yourself.
Yes, it's self-inflicted adversity.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned just as a media member, I swear you can mention your political views over crapping on Philly fans, because that's just a lose-lose situation. The fans are always right. I mean, the fans the fans truly believe that this is Nick Sirianni's offense. They truly believe that. And they're responding to that. I'm like, no, it's not, but you can't tell them that. Yeah. I mean, look.
Well, I just got that question.
Yeah.
Who's making the game plan? No matter how many times you say it,
but we're wrong. So,
well, Jeff, let me run this line of thought by you. And it comes from one of our great viewers here. And he brought this up yesterday. And I'm like, that's a great thought, right? Nick Sirianni, who's essentially become villain number one in Philadelphia. And that didn't just start yesterday. He said villain Nick activated. And yesterday he said, I wonder if Nick is playing into the villain role and almost embracing that he will be the lightning rod to take. Don't blame my offensive coordinator. Don't blame my defense. Put the hate on me. Put the hate on me. Don't put it on the quarterback. Don't put it on. Maybe he's embracing that a little bit and create. I mean, look, here we are on Monday morning. The Eagles squeak by the lowly Browns, and all we have to talk about is Nick Sirianni chirping at the fan base. Maybe it's working. I don't know. I think it's a fair point.
You're right. He's right too. Maybe that's the game plan. Instead, let's talk about how bad we were against the Browns.
I mean, he's like, hey, everybody already hates me and wants me fired anyway. What do I have to lose?
Yeah. Good rally him. I mean, Devonta Smith practically said yesterday, look, that's how he is. It's fine. Like, they seem to be okay with it. And I'm running comment, like, if the players are okay with it, and I have to be, right? I mean, I don't have to like it, but I'm not in the locker room. I don't have to deal with this guy every day.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he's a clown, but who cares what I think?
At the end of the day, it only matters what the players think of him inside the locker room and the organization. Now, Nick does embrace that role. That's why he tries to protect his assistants, and I've talked about it as him being the lightning rod. He's the Roger Goodell, the mini Roger Goodell of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's there to take the hits. And he says he can handle it. And I don't doubt that part of it, but I don't think Jeffrey Lurie's on board with it.
I kind of felt bad for his kids yesterday that they were smack dab in the center of that.
Yeah.
I don't think if I was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, I wouldn't anyone knowing who my wife or kids are.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on the privacy part of it, but you know, I will say this is not just a Philadelphia story. I mean,
No,
you can go on national media outlets; it's all over the place.
It's
Nick
the number one
Sirianni.
story on CBSSports.com right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's on all the outlets.
And you've
It's on
seen
the-
it locally, you know, as I brought up, you know, our buddy Mike Sealski wrote a pretty scathing column. I don't think Jeffrey Lurie's on board with this. So while I think, yes, that's part to the commenter's point, that's part of it. And Nick has, you know, spoken many times about he can take it and trying to deflect from players or coaches. That's fine from a personal level, but this is a business as well. And I don't think Jeffrey Lurie is going to take well to taunting Eagles fans after a win. That specifically.
I mean,
now maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Do we know that those were Eagles fans? It might have been some weird Cleveland fan who got decent seats.
Well,
I don't know.
I've heard both. I've heard it was directed at both sides. So, we don't know, but you know, I know a couple people that sit around there and they didn't even notice it when it happened. They said he was yelling. A couple of them said he was yelling something. They didn't know who or what he was yelling at. They just thought maybe it was him, but it's just a bad look in general. And
I can't imagine what the national people are going to say about it.
I guarantee there's probably an 8 a.m. meeting with Jeffrey Lurie about everything yesterday. Nick, you can't do this, man. I mean, he was putting a lot of people in uncomfortable situations yesterday.
Yeah, I don't care about us. Who cares? But
no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the organization.
A lot of people said it was uncomfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable at all. I was taking it all in like it was the reboot of Surreal Life.
I feel terrible. I missed the thing live.
I'm like, this is freaking great for my
reality TV for Johnny Mac.
But Mike Sealski had the greatest question. Why are they up here?
Yeah, well, you know, and then Nick went down. He played the hits about Jamestown, New York, and football family, and how much I love.
He got very emotional,
and then he lost the train of thought and had to ask Mike, "What was your question again?"
Why are they here, Nick?
And I'm looking at other guys, and I'm like, everybody's like, "What the freak is going on here?"
I thought CJ Gardner-Johnson had the best.
Oh, CJ was very Nick Sirianni, pro Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, he puts up with a lot of shit that you guys don't see, and I agree with him. I think he does.
Yeah, CJ was awesome talking about Nick Sirianni. Yeah, everybody doubts him. I'm just going to read the one quote. Everybody doubts him, and the people that don't doubt him is us. I don't think you guys know how much shit he takes on the daily, and we got to back him up for it. I'm proud that he's my coach and nobody else is my coach. That's pretty emphatic.
That's a pretty good quote. And, you know, it's telling. Like Devonta Smith even said, look, you know, even with the fans booing him, he said, well, you don't do your job around here. That's what happens, and you deserve it. And look, these guys get it. I think these guys get it. It's clear they support their coach. I never want to hear the Eagles, Nick Sirianni lost the locker room. That's just factually inaccurate.
Well, here's how I phrased it. I want to run this by you, Jeff. Run it up the flagpole. I think Philadelphia, for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, is tired of Nick Sirianni. And I think Nick Sirianni is now tired of Philadelphia. That's where I am.
I think that's a good take. I really do. It's, you know, it's been 4 years. It's been a long time. You know, Nick goes, if you're Nick, you're thinking, I took this team to the Super Bowl. I took this team to the playoffs every year. I've been a head coach. It's clear Nick Sirianni reads what's said about him, or he has
he does.
He has a burner account. Like I remember when I said Nick Sirianni took the team to the playoffs all 3 years, it doesn't count because 14 make it now as opposed to 12. And he wouldn't have made it when it was 12. Like, actually, he would have made it when he was 12 because they were the 6th seed. But, let's not get facts in the way of good narrative here. And, and last time I checked, it was 14 for everybody. Like, I could think Nick Sirianni's the biggest clown on the face of the earth. I'm not going to deny his success. I'm not going to deny his accomplishments. But I'm sure Nick reads all that, feeds off the criticism about him. I mean, would you be shocked if he just said one day, I'm out?
Oh, no. I mean, that's what Doug did. I could see it after this season because I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl. And that's why I bring up the second part. I think he's tired of Philadelphia. And I think at some point, he goes to Florida all the time too, same as Doug. He might go, all right, I'm out. I'm going to Florida.
Yeah. I'm going to sit on the beach with my family.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, in fact, I think ultimately everybody gets, the old Bum Phillips quote, 2 kinds of coaches, them that's hired and them that's fired. Everybody's got a shelf life.
Being a coach in Philadelphia is a very tough job. It is. And, it's a media-driven city. Fans are as passionate as anybody. It's one of the best cities to be a coach in. But we're seeing, too, there are coaches that win here, and they get criticized like they're the worst coach ever.
Yeah, but there's different, as tentacles of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody down there on a daily basis that covers the Philadelphia Eagles has a bad relationship with Nick Sirianni. I don't think anybody does.
I don't think so either. I mean, I was actually kind of surprised. I met him at the owners' meetings and, formally met him. He knew who I was. He knew who I worked for. Was talking for a little bit. I'm like, look, I mean, the guy, he didn't have to give me the time of day, left or right. But, I appreciate that. I look up his history too. I knew he played wide receiver Mount Union. I know he always talks about Larry Karras. So I knew he was his coach there. But it's like, the guy just loves football. I just don't think he likes everything that goes around it.
No, but the only point I say that media driven, yes, there's different. WIP is different, and
WIP and
Cilio gets mad at me for saying that to me is different than like what he goes through on a daily basis. And I think for the most part, no matter who he thinks they're fair, but then you have the larger thing, and the WIP stuff will fuel, whoever on ESPN as you.
Right now, it'd be Mike.
Called him a clown this morning. That's where that stuff comes from. And I think he's just tired of it. But that's just my speculation.
You know what?
I want to go back to the Lurie point real quick because Jarrell drops us $100 super chat. So one, I got to get to him because that's massive love right there, massive support. But he also brings up a good point. He's the one who's been at the bat for Nick Sirianni. Jarrell, thank you, brother. He says everyone's screaming, fire Nick, and he's not supposed to say anything. Then he starts barking back, and it's a problem.
He can say whatever he wants.
F that. Villain Nick activated. And if Lurie didn't like it, wouldn't Nick be gone? He's been like this the whole time he's been in Philadelphia. He's not wrong about that. Nick has always been this emotional, big figure that likes to do some of these goofy things. I can't dispute that. I mean, wouldn't Lurie have moved on already if he didn't like it this much? Or if he didn't like it now, you made your bed, Jeff. You got to lay in it now.
Yeah, I mean, Lurie never fires a coach in season, so he's not going to do it there. I mean, look, I'll just say this.
Hardship, but, only one game left. But
yeah, there was one. They were eliminated at that point. I'm talking about like a Robert Saleh or what looks like.
No, he's not. He's not firing anybody week 5.
But by the way, everybody loved it, and I know it was a playoff game. I know it's a different situation. I knew it was an NFC East rival, but everybody loved it when Nick was yelling in the camera, whatever he was yelling when they were kicking the crap out of the Giants in the first. Who, by the way, shouldn't have even been in that game. But that's beside the point. it's winning cures a lot of things, but now it just
Cures
seems,
everything.
yeah. But now it seems like even when you win, it's all right, Nick.
Well, I say
Browns.
winning. I don't mean winning a random game against a terrible opponent. I mean winning consistently cures everything.
Yeah.
Which they did for a very long time, which kind of masked. And there were people that complained, but anytime you have that run of success that they had, it's tough to complain pretty consistently. And now they're not having it. They're just an average team, and they're an average team that everybody who likes the team seems to think shouldn't be an average team, which is the real problem.
Yeah. I think a lot of fans finally got the realization they are an average team.
I don't think they have. That's the point. They for the most part, most of the fans think this is a really good team. And I don't know if this is a really good team, Jeff. It should be offensively. It's not. And maybe
Fred Johnson can't be the left tackle of this average team if we're going to go.
Well, exactly.
that route.
Now you start talking about is Goddard going to be out 3 games like AJ? I don't know. Maybe is AJ? Is Jordan Mailata going to be out significant? It certainly looks like he's going to be out for a while, at least a few games in the best case scenario. And all of a sudden, you're back to the same situation where, all right, Grant Calcaterra had a great game stepping up for Dallas Goedert, but now people know he's out there. If Dallas isn't out there, and they say, oh, well, we got to pay some attention to this guy. And, what are you going to do? Are you going to move Mekhi Becton outside? Or are you going to go with Fred Johnson? And by the way, neither idea is as good as Jordan Mailata, which is kind of the point.
Yeah, this team isn't deep.
No.
They can't afford stars to get hurt, and stars have been hurt. I mean, Jalen pointed out yesterday, we've only had one game where all our guys are together. That's real.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of it. And they are a different team when AJ's on the field because they can default to what they did yesterday. All right, let's just throw it to AJ. But you can't have a consistently good offense. And Lane called it constipated.
Constipated.
But which is a great quote. But if you look at the numbers after the game, it's a pretty solid effort. And the 4-minute offense, that's the one thing they're good at. When they get a chance to close games, and they put the running game with Jalen Hurts into the mix, they're tough to stop.
I got to give Jalen a ton of credit. I mean, didn't turn the ball over, made good decisions with the football, was good against the blitz. You can tell he's more confident when his guys are out there. It's Jalen Hurts played a really good football game yesterday. The Eagles do not win that football game if Jalen Hurts played like he did the first 4 games.
Yeah. Well, not turning it over is big for Jalen Hurts. I mean, doesn't matter.
11-1 when he doesn't turn the ball over. That's a
and
stat.
What was that? 9? That stops a 9 consecutive game streak.
Yeah. You could tell there was a sigh of relief on him yesterday. Just you listen to him in his press conference. He just sounded like, okay, I'm not going to get this today. Or if I get it, it's going to be a positive thing. And look, Jalen was really smart. There was a ball he threw. I think he would have forced it in the pass, and he threw it out of balance. And I'm like, okay, that's, he's not trying to do too much. And not trying to do too much worked very well for Jalen.
Yeah, and I thought he didn't. Sometimes you worry, is he just not going to take shots anymore? I thought he still pick and choose his moments with shots. I said the same, Jeff. I was pretty happy with Jalen Hurts' performance yesterday. I thought it was pretty good. He played well. The offense I thought was, okay. Some people are out there. You should have beat up on this team a lot worse. But that Browns defense is underrated right now with I think among the Eagles fan base. That's a pretty good defense. And Jim Schwartz does a good job.
They have a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. Let me remind you.
Yeah, well, right here in Philadelphia, and even with the missing players, I mean, they played good. Rodney McLeod obviously still.
Rodney was great.
Yeah, other than the Devontae Smith touchdown where he ran into the end zone and had no chance at tackling him, I thought Rodney was pretty good.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I mean, he's 34.
Yeah,
he's like their fourth safety. They're so banged up. But yeah, I mean, anytime Myles Garrett is out there and Jeremiah Owosu Koromoa, that's pretty good. Those two guys. But yeah, and they had the number one defense in the NFL last season. I said not only number one, they were number one since 2014. Jeff Kerr, they were really good defensively last year.
Yeah.
And they'll probably be really good defensively again when everybody gets healthy. Nick Sirianni talking about Denzel Ward too in the midst of his breakdown. That guy's really good as well. They have talent all over the field defensively.
It's like, AJ said it best. Hey, they get paid too.
Yeah.
That's a John McMullen saying. He must be talking to you a lot. They get paid too.
Yeah, it was good to talk to AJ this week, by the way.
Yeah, I think he liked my question yesterday when I asked him about. It seemed like early in the game, you guys were trying to get the deep ball going. It obviously wasn't connecting, but you were trying it. And I said, "You just take us through the process." He got into detail about, hey, look, I got to do this right. I had to make sure I do that right.
Oh, AJ's great, man. Wait until the cameras go away, the TV cameras.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was great after that too.
Yeah. And he will tell you a bunch of stuff. And he's really good about, putting things like that in context about, whether it's other cornerbacks, other receivers, really student of the game. And as I talk about all the time, he's the best player on the Philadelphia Eagles, regardless of position. And
to me, it's him and Lane. They're the two.
Yeah, I think Lane's number two, but I think AJ's the best football player the Eagles have. And I think it's pretty evident by the difference when he's out there, when he's not out there.
I mean, that's a tough defense to get 116 yards and a touchdown against. He did it.
Yeah. And so there were positives. We'll talk about the defense. I mean, there's nothing to talk about much other than what does it mean. But I will say this. Why the hell did the Eagles wait so long to pull the trigger on Cooper DeJean?
Yeah, I know. What
20 days in training camp. Let me remind you about those 20 days in training camp. Everybody like, well, Devin White's the starting linebacker. Devin White's nobody gives a shit about, why did it take so long for them to get to Cooper DeJean? You saw the difference.
There's a reason why, John, you and I always, when we were writing day 10, day 11 of observations, we're like, boy, these are pointless at this point. This is why we say they're pointless.
Well, he's a rookie, and that plays into it. Obviously, if a vet misses 20 days, nobody's going to care if an entrenched guy. So there is that part of it. But, I mean, all right, 20 days is 20 days, and then he was back, and we got to wait till the bye week? Yeah.
They could have used him in week 4.
Yeah, I think they made a mistake waiting that long. You see some of the juice he has. Really good blitzer, and Vic likes to blitz off the slot as a run defender, even more than a pass, in run support more than just third down obvious pass situation. But he's got the athleticism to do it. He showed that a little bit in the preseason game he did play against Minnesota. He should have started week 1.
He was good enough to. Ed Krause asked me yesterday, hey, how many times did they blitz DeJean? Do you have that? And I said, you know what, I'll look it up. And blitzed 3 times, and he got 2 pressures.
Yeah.
It created – look, the Browns' offense isn't good, but that's a weapon that the Eagles can use for the rest of the
and there's going to be hiccups, but, if you started them earlier, you get over them a little bit more quickly. And that's where you want to be anyway. It's just one of those where I was like, come on, what are we doing here? And Avante wasn't playing well, so that factors into it. But it took them too long to get there, but they've gotten there. Now, how much? They had 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. Obviously, they had 6 sacks coming in. How much, Deshaun Watson holds on to the football. all those injuries on the offensive line, added by Nick Harris getting hurt early in the game.
So they were down both their centers.
Yeah. How much do you take that seriously?
I think I take more seriously the fact that someone like Bryce Huff, who, by the way, John, do you happen to notice Stance went back to 4-point? Happen to notice that?
Yeah, well, that's another one. I mean,
he had a couple quarterback hits. He had a half a sack. He's getting more explosiveness all the. I mean, look, it's like AJ Brown said, those guys can pay on the other side too.
Yeah, a little bit slow for Vic Fangio to get to where he should have been with a couple particular players. But I'm still not in love with that defensive front, and I thought it was going to be the strength of the defense. And
they showed some life yesterday, though.
They did.
The interior definitely did.
I mean, Moro Jomo, is he better than Jordan Davis?
Well, he's a better pass rusher.
Thomas Booker's a better pass rusher than Jordan Davis.
But I mean, what does that mean? I mean, you want to put Moro Jomo in that 5-man front, see how that works for Jordan Davis?
I mean, Cleveland struggled to run the ball yesterday. I thought Jordan Davis played a solid game yesterday.
Well, I don't know if he's playing. I don't think he's playing well, to be honest.
Well, no, I don't think he is either.
I mean, it's a different role than Moro Jomo, which I talk about all the time. I mean, you don't want somebody that the Eagles did that with Javon Hargrave, who's a really good player in 2021. They tried to play him at nose tackle, and that went about as well as expected. So, I mean, Jordan's just got to perform well in his role, and I don't think he has. But that doesn't mean to have anybody else that can play that role, because they don't, which is part of the problem. And then Nakobe Dean. Now, 12 tackles. I love Nakobe. I talked Nakobe up all in the summer. Boy, he's bad in space, Jeff Kerr.
Very bad, very bad. DeCecco and I were like, oh, look, there's Nakobe Dean again, not doing what he's supposed to be doing.
I mean, and how long do you keep going with this if it continues like this?
You go with Trotter
or Ben? I don't care.
Yeah, or Ben. Yeah,
I'm
Ben
saying
plays. He plays.
I'm saying, do you try?
I think you try.
At what point do you say, all right, this is not working?
They were forced to try Ben in week 16 last year, and it worked.
Yeah, very small sample size. I don't think they're going to try, but boy, he's got to start playing better. And it's not the time you say, well, the defense didn't give up a touchdown. Yeah, but if you look at the end, and I'm going to be interested to see the PFF grades today. I don't think he's going to have a good grade. It's just my assumption. But that's just after the first watch live. But yeah, I think people see 12 tackles. He's active. Pierre Strong's gashing you, the 4th-string running back.
Yeah,
Pierre Strong. Oh,
that
man.
one.
Can you imagine what Nick Chubb would have done to Nakobe Dean? A healthy Nick Chubb.
Jeff, I don't even want to think about that.
Pierre Strong. I mean, yeah, Pierre was pretty strong. I was pretty impressed with him, to the point where who was the third? Foreman, Dante Foreman.
Dante Foreman. Yeah.
I was like, why don't you put Strong back in there? He's killing people. But Kevin Stefanski, if this were Browns 365, boy. But all I can say about Kevin Stefanski right now, he's from St. Joe's Prep, and he's got a nice beard. I don't know what he's doing.
I know a couple people on the Browns beat that were at that game yesterday, and I think they're getting tired of writing about are the Browns going to bench Deshaun Watson, because it ain't happening. He doubled down on his quarterback again yesterday.
Well, there's nothing he can do from that standpoint. It's not like he can bench him. I would think he's not permitted to bench him. I don't know, but I would think.
They keep joking he's going to get 2 coaching staffs fired. Stefanski and whoever replaces him.
Maybe. Although I would think if they want anybody of any substance, and maybe they don't, but I would think they would say, hey, guess what? I'm moving on from the quarterback.
I have a running joke about Deshaun Watson I won't share on here, John, but I think you've heard it before.
I don't know. Nothing can beat BLG's take on Deshaun Watson.
Which
Right
one's
now,
that?
Right now, he's probably a better person than he is a player.
Oh, it's around there. He's as bad of a football player as he is a human.
Yeah. It's same thing, inverse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'll
pretty
say
much
this.
the same thing.
This is one of the biggest positives for the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. The Commanders lost. The Cowboys got absolutely annihilated.
The Cowboys stink.
The Cowboys are brutal. Oh, my God.
Did you guys hear Jerry yesterday after the game?
No, I
I
didn't
did
hear
not.
Oh, so
No.
he was asked about.
I know we doubled down on Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, about potential changes. He goes, "Do I look like an idiot?" I'm like, I would have said, "Yes, you do. You're the only owner that talks after games."
I know they put out. There's been they show their attendance. You know, it's a huge stadium,
And they blocked out the score.
They blocked out the score.
Yeah, that was
Because it was so
AT&T
bad.
Stadium put that out, to be fair.
But by the way, this is what fans
it was
know
AT&T
by
Stadium.
controlling the narrative.
Yeah,
It's his teams for you.
but it was Yeah, I mean they're intertwined. But yeah, I thought that was funny. No, I was talking about that, Jeff. I think the 4 biggest point differential teams in the NFL are the
They're in the
NFC
NFC
North
North.
teams.
They're
Every
all
single one of them.
And by the way, I think there's only been one NFC North game the entire season.
Yeah, the Vikings beat the Packers. That's it. So they all got to play each other starting next week.
Starting next week. Yeah. Detroit and Minnesota's next week.
Yeah. So they're going to beat up on each other, I would think.
I think the Lions are still the best team in that division.
So do I.
I do too.
But they lost Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah. Oh man, that was gnarly.
That was a nasty injury. I'm like, oh.
By the way,
Great guy.
I picked him to be NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Boy,
he was on his way to do it.
I was about to declare victory there, and all of a sudden he has that horrible injury. So
I didn't even want to write about that in my overreactions, like how gruesome of an injury that is.
It was awful.
I decided to write about Jared Goff has the best 2-game stretch for anybody in NFL history, and he does.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because it's going to be Brian Flores against Jared Goff. I have a feeling Jared Goff is going to come down to earth next week.
Yeah,
At
I'm
least
on
somewhat.
advantage flow.
At least somewhat, but we'll see.
But
Detroit has more talent, so
their weapons
rather
are
more
incredible.
talent.
I said this team is the best team in the NFC if Jameson Williams becomes Jameson Williams again.
Yeah. They have a ton of talent. So but I think there's going to be some hiccups for Jared Goff when he sees some of the stuff that Flores is going to roll out there.
You think Dan Campbell enjoyed that game a little too much yesterday? You know, being his old team he coached, old team he played for. What happened last year?
Well, Dan's in the same lot in life as Nick Sirianni. He's got all this success for a team, and even more so because a team that typically didn't have a lot of success, whereas the Eagles have. And fans are running him out of his house out in Detroit.
Yeah, but I think it's for other reasons. So Dan Campbell, they're ready to put a statue up for that guy.
They weren't last year. Yeah. Jeff, did you see that story? Yeah, he had to sell his house because people were going to it and shit. I mean, it's
Dan Campbell's the type of coach I'd love to play for.
By the way, if Dan Campbell ever caught one of those people, he beat the what out of him.
He bite his kneecaps.
That dude is jacked. So you better be careful when you're messing with Dan Campbell. But to Zander's point, the Eagles should win this division. It's a crappy division.
Stinks.
Everything is there in front of them. The NFC North teams are going to beat the shit out of each other. Is this a situation where you can slow play it, have some hiccups, play your best down the end of the season. All of a sudden you wake up one day and say the Eagles are relevant again.
Yeah. They take care of business next week. They take care of business.
Oh, the Giants were worse than the Cleveland Browns. That was torture. Yeah. I don't know why.
The worst Sunday night. Oh, by the way, the Bengals don't look too great either.
No, they don't.
Giants have a good defense. I'll give them that. They really do. I'm scared.
Well, Lawrence is great. Brian Burns is starting to wake up.
Thibodeau
yeah.
didn't even play last night.
Well, Thibodeau's on IR, so he's going to be out
Yeah.
for at least 3
But they
more
still
games.
have Aziz Ujiri. So
Yeah, Ojulari played well last night.
Andrew
Okereke is good.
Thomas looked bad against Trey Hendrickson.
He got hurt too.
Yeah, he did.
So that's something to keep an eye on. But boy, I mean, that's a bad football team. They might be worse offensively than Cleveland. I don't know. It's close, but they might be.
Daniel Jones is their quarterback.
I don't know where Malik Neighbors is, but
well, he was at Travis Scott concert on Wednesday for concussion.
Peak wide receiver 1 behavior there.
Do you hear how pissed off Brian Dable was over that?
I heard him say, "We'll talk."
Much as he could to just not throw that guy under the bus.
What with all due respect to Malik, and I don't know Malik Neighbors from Adam, but yeah, I saw him at Devontae Smith last week, and I asked him about the concussion. And he's like, "I was fine. I was fine." I mean, I can't. What do you expect these guys to do?
Remember, he said he did all last week. He just kind of sat at home with his family. He said, I
mean, they can't pass the concussion protocol. That's
he's not allowed in the building.
But I mean, they got to live their lives, and if they feel fine, I'm not going to kill the guy.
I didn't care Malik Neighbors was at that concert. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the NFL's concussion protocol.
No, I don't think Devonta Smith gets it either. He's like just trying to explain like what he had to do during that week, and he's just like, I spent time with my family. I'm not really allowed to go to the building, so.
I mean, it's like Lane's got 4 documented concussions, and he's back the freaking next day at practice. Wednesday, a couple days later, and Devontae can't practice, and he's fine. Obviously there's medical tests and baseline.
Lane, all I had to do was get in the contact practice on Friday. I would have played.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a scandal one day, because obviously quarterbacks seem to get through the protocol.
Well, we saw what the Bills did last Sunday. Oh, here's the smelling salt. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. They tend to get through,
Yeah,
especially meaningful quarterbacks tend to get through it a little bit easier, to say it, to put it mildly. But yeah, that's going to be a scandal one day. Mark my words.
I wanted to slam my national media cohorts today because I decided late last night to watch a couple games, a couple of the condensed games, and I watched Baltimore, Washington. Oh, Washington! They played so hard. They played well. They proved they belong. No, they didn't. Baltimore kicked the crap out of them. What game were you watching? The garbage time touchdown?
Yeah, people look at the box score and say, "Yeah, it was close." But a lot of times,
close. But again, it's like we said with the 4-man offense. Baltimore decided to not collapse like they usually do, which they won't do as much this year because they have Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Jeff, we got to run. Final thoughts on the Eagles game yesterday. What are your final takeaways before we let you go?
They won. I mean, they won. It's better than being 2-3.
Yeah,
it's better than losing.
Yeah, they should win next week.
In this crappy division, just winning is going to take a long way.
You beat a bad football team. You did what you're supposed to do. It wasn't pretty, but they're all.
You got to do the same thing on Sunday. Beat another bad football team.
Yeah. And you know what? I love the Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. I like a lot of guys on that team. I don't think they're a good football team.
No, they're not. Are they the third game? Who's after the Giants?
Jacksonville.
No, it's Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Then Jacksonville.
Right. Then it's Dallas. Then what? Washington on the short week.
Yeah, now Dallas is a terrible football team, and Washington on a short week. That Washington game, boy, I mean, they got a chance to go on a big run here, even if they win every game 20.
John, we were kind of talking about that this week. Like, they can really turn things around. They may not be pretty when they're doing it. I mean, but there's a realistic chance they could be 6-2.
Yeah, definitely realistic. I mean, look at our next couple opponents.
Jeff,
Jeff,
5-3 the minimum, Zander. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff, thanks for joining the show, man. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, brother.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
All right, great stuff there from Jeff Kerr. Good stuff from Jeff. John, we're low on time. We got Chris Franklin coming up in 9 minutes, but I got a bunch of super chats, and I want to rip through them. A couple good takes. Appreciate everybody in the chat today. Let me roll through a couple of these. Brian Garner checks in on October 6th, watching Cleveland versus Washington. I texted my Eagles group chat and said, there's no way the Browns should be close next week, but somehow it will be. That's the tale of the Philadelphia Eagles, Garner. I appreciate the super chat. James Carver says, no one complained and actually celebrates when players have done same. BG telling a kid about to whip that ass. JC going off in NOLA, just like J-Mac says. Fans blame coaches and overlook players. Media chooses who to like versus the clown. I think that's a fair point. Next, obviously,
I do think,
they should be held to a different standard, though, right?
But yeah, coaches are held to a different standard than players. I mean, first of all, they're older and more experienced and have a different job description. Players are going to talk trash, and some of the coaches now aren't older than BG, but you get the point in general. There's a little bit more of a decorum, say, to a coaching position than a player talking trash, and players get plenty of crap for talking trash. You can do it in a fun-natured Brandon Graham type of way, or you can do it in a spit type of way. And if you do it in a negative way, you're going to get shit as a player. No question about it.
Yep, no doubt about it. Let's move on. D Hughes checks in. D, appreciate you checking in, man. Your first super chat on a live stream. Thank you for joining in today. He says, even though it worked, I wasn't a fan of that audible at the end of the game. If AJ doesn't catch that, it's 3rd and 11 with the clock stopped. Risk reward in that situation doesn't feel sustainable. John, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the opponent makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, I didn't think it was a good decision. But I ultimately, I think even if you got to punt the ball, Cleveland's not going the field, length of the field with Deshaun Watson. But yeah, I get your point. Against a good NFL team, that's a really bad decision. So despite the outcome, which I talked about, good decisions don't guarantee good outcomes. Bad decisions don't guarantee bad outcomes. Occasionally, you pulled a horseshoe out of your ass, and the horseshoe was A.J. Brown, and he made a big play. And it worked. But it probably wasn't the best decision in the world.
Let's move on. James Carver checks in again. James, appreciate it, brother. Let's pump brakes on DeJean, too. Can't have it both ways. Cooper played against a bad offense. He did well, but he wasn't playing a top team, which is fine to point out when criticizing offense and coaches. That's a fair point. I mean, everybody else said.
Right. I already said it. But he's better than Avonte Maddox. And
Definitely.
If you would have started earlier, I said, as a matter of fact, there's going to be hiccups. Be prepared for them. And he's not going to look good at times. Now, you have this stretch where maybe that factored into big stinking. Hey, we got the Cleveland Browns. We got the New York Giants. Cincinnati, depending on the day, might be a little bit differently. But yeah, you got no NFC North teams coming up. Like if this were Jared Goff and the Lions, the way Jared's playing right now, oof, boy, there'd be some angst. But you don't have that on the schedule right now.
Yeah. Big loss last night for them with Hutchinson. Boy, that was an ugly injury. And Jarrell checks back in. Appreciate it, Jarrell. All the support the last couple of days, man. It means a lot. Thank you. In my opinion, no disrespect to media. Folks wanting the team to be perfect. Jalen never make a mistake. Nick to be a choir boy and never show emotion. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The game is full of emotions.
I can only speak about myself. I don't care. I've never seen a perfect football game in my life. I've never seen a quarterback that didn't make bad decisions from Tom Brady on down. It's about consistency. It's about making more good decisions than bad decisions. It's about making the right decision more often than not. The more you do that, the better you are. As far as Nick, yeah, you'll never hear me. He should be a choir boy. Like I said, it's better for me when he acts like the way he acted yesterday.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Jalen mentioned he wanted them to be himself, and they talked about it over the bye week. Maybe that was part of Nick yesterday, kind of embracing that who he's been in the past and not tempering it anymore on the sidelines.
I just think it's a problem for the Eagles. I think it's a problem for his bosses when he taunts his own fans.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't even think taunting of the Cleveland players. I haven't even brought that up much because that doesn't matter as much to me. You'll hear some hot takers bring it up and say, "Oh, you can't do that. You got to be decorum." But I think that would be my argument as a media member. I would say, I say this all the time. Fans put us into a group and say, "Oh, the media says, the media says, the media says." There is a big difference between one media member and another media member.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're not having meetings at Chicky and Pete's every week to come up with some kind of narrative. I love Sealski. I don't talk to Sealski about what he's going to write. He doesn't talk to me about what he's doing. Jeff McMullen doesn't talk to anybody about what he's doing. Zach Berman doesn't talk to anybody about what he's doing. This nonsense that we're creating some kind of thing. We all develop our own opinions and we give them to you. It's not a group. It's not a monolith. It's just each of our individual opinions.
Nobody does a better job at that than John McMullen of anybody on the beat. So good job by you, Johnny Mac. M. Martine checks in. I'm out on Nakobe too. I saw a play where he had Watson dead to rights and just whiffed inexplicably. Any chance they call the 1-5 Browns about old friend Jordan Hicks' experience and better fit, I think.
Well, Jordan's hurt right now again.
Yeah, he didn't play yesterday.
Yeah, he, at his age, I would say no. I mean, and obviously, I don't know what contract he played pretty well in Minnesota for a couple years, and then he signed with Cleveland this offseason. Great guy, still a decent player at his age. Had a really serious injury last year, scary one. We talk about Aiden Hutchinson. He had to have emergency surgery because he had some weird compartment syndrome where his swelling in the leg just expanded so much. You think about it, happens all the time in the NFL. You get a bad bruise on your leg, and then all of a sudden it just started swelling and swelling and swelling. He needed emergency medical care, surgery, and came back from that. But I don't think he's been the same player since he came back from that. So, and just the age in general. He's 32 now. Yeah, I don't think that would be a fit, but good player, good guy.
Yeah. Appreciate it, M. Martine, for checking in. Prince Swayze says, Dean realized he needed to cover the tight end and started looking around, feeling extremely nervous. Get him out of there. Help me, please. Prince is done with the Nakobe Dean experiment, John. I think a lot of people are moving.
Well, I think, and by the way, if the Eagles get to that point, I think it's going to take a long. They're not getting to that point this week or anything, but I do think they're high on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Ben Van Sumeren, so they would try that first before they. And then that's probably an off-season decision, and maybe Howie reevaluates and says to himself, we got to put a little bit more into this position as far as assets go. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. One more super chat to get to. Two more. 99 says, good to see Nick pulling out his Britney Spears, shaving his head. Next week, he'll be wearing a skirt, getting out of his Jeep and flashing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But it was surreal.
I
don't want to call. I think he's tired. I think you see it in his eyes. I think he's tired of the shit he takes, but that's sort of he also has seized that mantle, as people point out. I don't think it's about being the villain. I think it's he doesn't want want his guys to take shit, so he takes the shit.
Yeah. He's become that lightning rod. Gerald says, thank you for your feedback. J-Mac. Lucius checks in. Good morning, guys. Michael Clay for head coach. Wow. He said that last time on the post game.
Well, I that's like the third straight game they made a big mistake on special teams.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't. Mike's a great guy. But yeah, this is not the time to blow the horn for head coach. I mean, Myles Garrett's jumping over your field goal protection.
Yeah, can you put that on Michael Clay though, or is that just Myles Garrett's a freaking?
No, you can't put it. But I'm saying there's 3 consecutive games where there's been a big
Yeah,
mistake.
no, there has. Now that's a trend for sure, no doubt.
Yeah.
Let's get to our commercial break because we got Chris Franklin. We got to get to our man Chris. Appreciate everybody in the chat today for the support. A lot of good membership comments, so appreciate that. Before I get to our break, let me tell you about our great friends at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. Check out the promo code on your screen right now. YouTube 150, and you get 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposits, all up to $2,000. So go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Birds 365 back in 3 minutes with the great Chris Franklin.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday Overreaction Monday edition of Birds 365. Joined now by Chris Franklin from NJ.com. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Monday morning?
I'm doing not too bad. I thought, otherwise than hearing about something that happened, right, the game was about ready to end or something like that. I don't know.
Chris, you and I were talking about after the game. We should be talking about and writing about a crappy Eagles win. Certainly not aesthetic, but a win is a win. Instead, we're talking about the head coach and that one-man show that debuted that I didn't know, but I had good seats for it. So at least there's that. Your thoughts on the performance of the Nick Sirianni show?
You know, what was that? What was that? The critic? What was that show? That it stunk. Like I just thought at the time, you just didn't need to. Like I understand being involved emotionally into a game. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's a lot of preparation, a lot of work. These guys stay away from families, what have you. I get that. It comes to the time when if you've been admonished for it beforehand, especially in the city, you know how fans can get sometimes in the city. It can get a little rough, especially if you're not doing as well. I understand that, but that's their way of trying to make you better in terms of that. Even if you get baited with it, you can't go into it. You just gotta move on. I understand he said he wants to be himself. He wants to do that. You can be yourself, like I saw the jaw and stuff like that. If you want to jaw with the other players, go for it. I saw that happen. Like when
Which
Blue
you
was used
did,
somewhere with
and
that.
that
Yeah,
that's fine.
they're used to that. Not when it comes to the fan base. I thought that was still yeah. Even I'm taking it way beyond the national too. If you want to do it to opposing fans, just because that would do like happened in Kansas City. I don't agree with it, but at least do that. Not your own fans that are right behind you, because so a lot of season ticket holders will be right behind them again next home game when they play the Jaguars. Will be right behind them again trying to chirp again if that's the same people.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do the Hulk Hogan ear cup when they're saying fire Nick. But I get it. I get the frustration as well. How do you think it went over in the organization? Because to me, that's the biggest problem Nick has. Like, it doesn't matter what whomever on ESPN is saying Nick's a clown this morning, or that doesn't matter. What matters is, Jeffrey Lurie, he both wants to win on the football fan, but it's also a business to him. And he wants, he probably doesn't want his head coach taunting his own fans after a win. That would be my guess. I haven't talked to Jeffrey, but that would be my guess.
Yeah, I don't think, especially after you see the reports about beforehand heading to the season, they wanted some of that stuff to stop, and to see it happen, I just don't. I don't think it went over too highly. I think the win helped cull some of it down, but I don't think I don't think it went over very well at all. Like, and to see them do that, especially now, if say this team finishes 9-8, wins a playoff game, and not even that, like say they finish 9-8, and you're looking at the whole entire picture here, and then say it's dividing line, like, well, we saw some stuff with the offense, the defense wasn't good. Do you fire him? And then stuff like this is going to be brought up. Like, this is what people think on the outside. He's not making friends. He game after her own fan base a little bit, start talking to them a little bit. Maybe that's the one that pushes it over to go, okay, move on from here. So I don't think it helped his case at all. So the best thing he can do to move past this is to keep winning, to try not to put himself in that situation.
I tell you what, maybe the front office doesn't like it, but it certainly seems like some of the players are, not only do they not mind it, but some of them almost, it seems like they asked for him to do more of it. I mean, did you see Brandon Graham's quote about it? Nobody knows about the Philly fans more than me. Be yourself and make them eat their words. That's what Nick did yesterday. The Philly fans boo him left and right. They call for him to get fired, and he claps back. So maybe the front office has an issue with it, but I wonder if there's a disconnect between them and not only Nick, but the players in the locker room who seem to have told Nick to embrace who he is and be more of that. Brandon Graham said, we need 22 Nick back. Jalen Hurts said he wants him to be himself. I mean, those are two leaders, bona fide leaders on the football team telling him to be himself. Maybe Nick is riding for his guys,
See, part of me feels like it's almost like seeing the professor. You're in the class and it's getting towards the end and you're all drinking beers. It's like, you got to drink the beers. And when you see the professor get joined into it, oh, wow, look at this is cool. You see it, and then after a while, it's like, oh, okay, they got that temporary bumps going away. I look at it when it comes to him, it's like, if he did it consistently throughout the whole entire time, and then it comes to a fact like, you start to question, you guys can only be motivated if you're acting like that, which you look at self-motivation, you start looking at other things too, but he can be himself. He it's going to be this way. He's going to be him now. So that's the thing. It's like, if you're going to go down this road, you better make sure it works. And that's the main thing on that.
I don't know. I don't know. The positive is, I mean, if you look at the upcoming schedule, there's a chance to win some football games. So I think, as you pointed out, that cures everything. And we've talked about the NFC North. The best 4 teams in football might be in the NFC North. And what that means is they're going to beat the shit out of each other in the upcoming weeks because they have to start playing each other. And I'm exaggerating a little bit because Chicago's probably not, but everybody else looks like a legit contender. In Detroit, they lost. What a horrible injury to Aiden Hutchinson, but man, they're playing well overall. The Eagles, everybody lost. Washington lost. Dallas was destroyed by the Lions. The Giants looked atrocious again offensively. And guess where? The Eagles get to face Daniel Jones and the Giants in that offense this upcoming week. You win another 2016 game and win another 2016 game and win another 2016 game against Jacksonville. And everybody's happy.
And then we'll hear the identity. This is a gutsy team that does it when the time that we'll hear the narrative's going to change completely. It really is. It will, because in a way, this stretch kind of reminds me of 2021, where they ended. And you look at that schedule, everybody's like, "Well, they'll go on a run," and they did. And then the ending came. It almost reminds me of the same thing where you see these guys, you can see them making a run. And I think the best thing for them, at this point, the way Minnesota's playing, the way that Seattle's playing, well, they lost the last couple days, but like San Fran's lurking around there too. And Tampa Bay, that's what I really meant. Tampa Bay, I don't know what's not in. So the way to do this, I think the 1 seed's out. It's the way this team's playing and everything else. I think the 1 seed's out. This team needs to finish 3 or better. There's no way, because you go 4, you got to play one of those North teams and get luck at that. Even with 3, you still have a chance playing with one of them against one of them. It ain't feel good. At least a 3 or high. They have to finish a 3 or higher. Otherwise, you'll get you. Because if they lose in the wild card round, I think that's another signal that just going to be changes made. So it's almost like a all or nothing at this point right now for it. Just go for board and try to win as many games as possible.
Chris, what about football?
By the way, real quick before, I'm sorry, Zander. I'm watching the Nick Sirianni clip yelling at fans. And for the first time, I just noticed Brandon Graham is just smiling.
Yeah, cracking up.
And Nick Yates as well.
Like it, dude.
Nick Yates is having the time of his life. He's not even dressed. So I would just add that into the context, which, everybody seemed to be enjoying it on the sidelines. So
Gates probably saw it, because Gates probably saw like Dable was like, Dable didn't do this. I've never seen him do that before. Like, he'll just go,
yeah. And CJ is there as well. CJ had some really nice things to say about Nick Sirianni after the game.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. CJ to defend the coach, whether you like the antics or not. You want to see people. You want to see him be a unit. Chris, your takeaways from the football perspective. We'll start with the Eagles' offense. I mean, how much can you take from that game? I take turnover-free football for Jalen Hurts. Thought he made some good decisions in there. I liked what I saw from him yesterday, and obviously you get back A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and you see what kind of impact that has. But what are your takeaways offensively from that game?
I thought that was the whole thing revolves around. That's going to be the tougher side of the ball, the way that the defense, because with the Browns, it's the defense that carries that team. We saw what happens offensively with them. And I thought they did very well in terms of blitz and putting pressure on them. And we know Jim Johnson, I think, especially his time with Hurts for that one season, and then seeing the film and everything from the successive seasons afterwards, was going to bring pressure. He really was. And then when you look at the way that Jalen Hurts handled it, I thought he did a good job. I look at the run game. I saw that was a little bit. The only thing I see with this offense that kind of has me worried, well, doesn't have me worried, that's kind of fast, is when you look at their early down production and the predictability when it comes to the early downs too. Because after they tried those first, I'll say the first like few plays, they started trying to do fades and everything on the outside. They started running, almost like every first down was almost a run. And you always knew that. And then the Browns adjusted. They get that back. And they put them behind the sticks and make them third longs when it came to that. The team needs to do a lot better job on first down and second down. Even just get 5 yards in those combination of those two downs, and all of a sudden you open up your whole playbook and you should be able to get 5 yards with this offense no matter what. So I think that's a concern for me going forward, their production on the early downs. But otherwise, looking at everything, and then injury wise, you need Jordan, especially next week, against that Giants defense. The defense, that's strength too. Looks like Mailata is going to be, unless there's some kind of saying, oh, it's just a strain. Like if they say that's a strain, that's I'm running to get a Powerball ticket right now because I know they got lucky on that one too. But you got, I'm worried about
Did
the
you see the
Mailata
video?
injury.
Did you see BLG got video of him on crutches at the
Yeah.
I got to, yeah.
Didn't look
And
good.
the thing the fact he was able to sit down on the type of crutches he had, I was impressed by those crutches. Jeez,
Yeah.
that's a big dude. He's sitting around like chilling around like, what the heck is that? But yeah, to see him not that, I'm at the very least, I hope it's a severe right sprain and it's not a tear.
Yeah, that's my concern. It's a tear. It looks like it's going to be multiple week injury,
Yeah.
even in a best case scenario. But if it is, let's just say it is, and best say 4 weeks, even 2 weeks, even 2 to 4 weeks. Do you move Mekhi Becton the left tackle?
I think you do. I think you have to because I know Stout doesn't like to do multiple moves. Just
Yeah.
filling in it, and this is no knock Fred Johnson. I think Fred Johnson's done a good job for being put in there. I just look at the teams they have on their schedule upcoming, and even though like the Giants I mentioned, they get after the quarterback. They're a good pass rushing team. They really are. So and especially with Brian Burns, he's going to sit on that side. So I look at Brian Burns, Trey Hendrickson, and the Cincinnati Bengals. They may not be doing as well as they normally do, and they're underperforming on that side. But he's still a dangerous guy coming off the edge. So you got that as well too. And granted, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Jaguars, who knows? But you look at it like, all right. You look at that, and I'm like,
poor Tony Khan, my buddy Tony Khan.
oh, that's Tony. Yes, right. Yes, he's going to be focused more on AEW now after seeing the way that team's playing lately. But you look at that and I think, all right, yeah, at least for that short term stint, and then you can move back that way. Because I think when you put Steen in there, if you leave Becton there, I'd rather have Becton on the outside and Steen in there at right guard. I think that's a better combo.
Yeah.
Just for what you're going to face than seeing Fred Johnson there and Becton on the inside on there.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick, I not to play doctor, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't believe you two are either. Worst case scenario here could be bad though, right? I mean, if he did tear his hamstring, we're talking multiple 4 or 5 month injury. No.
There's different grades of tear. When
Yeah.
I covered Randy Moss, he had a slight one. He missed like 4 weeks.
I mean, I looked at the way that Jordan was walking, and I'm like, AJ Brown missed.
If it's a complete
4 weeks.
tear, then you're talking like what you're saying.
Yeah,
But there's
long
levels.
hair.
There's levels to it, as there are with most things. Randy had a slight tear and was out for a month, so even a slight tear, and that was the first game he ever missed when he tore his hamstring. So, yeah. It's a pretty significant injury, and we hope for the best with Jordan Mailata. But yeah, I can't see any way it's not at least multiple weeks. And then you start talking about Dallas Goedert. If Dallas Goedert has more of a traditional hamstring injury, if that's an AJ situation, he might miss 3 weeks.
Right.
So there were some significant. Did see Slay after the game. He was talking with his wife and Mike Quick a little bit, and he seemed pretty good. So hopefully he escaped without anything terribly serious. But we'll see. Obviously, the Eagles are going to keep it close to the vest because they always do when it comes to injuries, as long as possible. But defensively, I don't know what to make of it, but it was a pretty good outing. And for me, it started with Cooper DeJean and why the heck it took the Eagles so long to pull that trigger, Chris Franklin.
I think, well, the nickel's I know it's a tough spot. So I think they're trying, especially if he had not gotten injured during the offseason, I think he would have been in that spot day one when the season began. And I think it just took some time in terms of him feeling up to it. And then after that, learning the system and learning all the nuances that came to it. Because after all, he's still a rookie. No, Iowa's defensive scheme is pretty complex compared to a lot of other teams. So getting him into that one probably didn't take as long. So he felt used to it. So I thought that's where it came in. But overall, for him to be in that spot and for him to be like the Swiss Army knife way that they used him when they came into regular coverage, whether it was going and helping him stop the run and set the edge or even blitzing. And the way he looks like an effective blitzer off the edge.
Yeah.
Like there's one little tell he's starting to show a little bit, and then when he's starting to edge, but you hope hard counts don't start to get him in terms of that. But overall, he looked, I think for his first game, that was good. Now, once again, it comes to a matter of, was that a product of Cooper and how good he can be, or is that the Browns offense? Which I think the three of us right now pretty much have a
Yeah.
good shot at least putting up some more semblance of more yards as about as they have.
I
So
think they might be better than the Giants team I watched last night.
I think that was just aberration. I don't know what I think it was an aberration. I think a lot of that too is they didn't have Malik Neighbors, and I'm sorry, to me, I know Jerry Judy in his past league college. I look at Amari Cooper and what he did in the past. I just don't think they're that impactful. I think they're more
No.
names as opposed to talent itself there for it. They're still, if you had him on his team, I think Cooper would be like a 2B, 3-ish. I just don't think he's that type of number one receiver anymore. And Judy's even can do it with Denver. He's doing it now. He's not making that impact.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's kind of to me of that for it. I still think that I'd have them on the roster if they wanted to be on the roster, but I don't think they're as impactful as they were in the past. So that's where I kind of look at that. If Neighbors comes back for the Giants, yeah, I can see him giving problems
Yeah, he's a good player. You would
Yeah.
think. I mean, he's been out 2 weeks. He's going to Travis Scott concerts. I would think he'd get through the protocol, but I don't know. He can't get through the protocol. But we'll see how that. They're a much better team when Neighbors is out there, at least. But I mean, they're limited. The other guy defensively, Nakobe Dean. Boy, and I just looked it up. They're not official yet, but the early PFF numbers are out there. And I mentioned he was the worst defender on the team, and everybody had a pretty good day. Otherwise, actually, Reed Blankenship didn't have a good game from their perspective. And then Nakobe's dead last again. Boy, he's bad in space, Chris.
That's like the MO on that one too. I thought his play recognition was really good when it came to some of his pursuit angles, and then when he isolated him, especially on the edge and the outside, it has issues, and that's the thing you're looking at now. Like if Devin White couldn't beat that, how bad was Devin White?
Yeah, well, I didn't
even think a shot like that. It's true.
People got to let that one go. But I think the more relevant one is, does Trotter have a chance to play, or Ben Van Sumeren have a chance to play at some point if this continues?
I think you have more of a shot to see Trotter, and even then, I have my issues in terms of coverage. He's gotten better. He's gotten a lot better because I was very concerned with him coming out of college and coverage. He's gotten better and looking like we were watching him in OTAs and then recent game, he got a lot better. And so I feel a little bit more comfortable with him there. I just don't know if you could throw him in there right now to really do that, because I still think Dean is doing in terms of getting the guys in the right spots. I think he's doing all right, and I think that's key too, because I'd rather have one person being a weak link than potentially somebody making a missed calls. You got a helter skelter, and then you just got supposed to play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's good at that kind of stuff. I think he's smart. I think he's very instinctive. But when you get him in space, it is ugly. Yeah,
that's a little, and it's almost like one of those things where you almost feel more comfortable if you kind of had him playing the Zach Vaughn role of rushing off the edge at times, or having him being a dedicated blitzer, and then having Vaughn back in space. So I think I feel more comfortable with Vaughn right now in coverage. If they ran like a Tampa 2 style coverage, having him go back in in the middle of the field, I'd rather have Vaughn doing that, because I know at least he's got some sort of feel at the time right now where he's doing a lot better than opposed to when you have Dean out there and trying to cover like a running back. Like the matchup next week against Taylor versus Dean kind of scares me. It really does, because I can see them trying to isolate him, put him on a swing pass or some type of short screen, what have you. And that kind of, the way Taylor's playing right now, kind of has me a little concerned about that.
Yeah, he's a former college receiver. So yeah, he can do some things, but boy, I got to admit, I can't worry about the Giants offense.
I'm trying. See, I kind of want to do this. I'll go to the question. The question I want to ask, I'll care. The question I'm going to ask today, in terms of this, is going to be when it comes to the Eagles and MetLife, because when you look at them going to MetLife Stadium, believe Hurts is like 1-3. It could be the team too. I got to double check the stat again before I ask it. But I think like 1-3 in the last 4 times they were up at MetLife, whether it be the Giants or the Jets. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
they
not
had some bad
issues
moments.
there.
The Jalen Rager game where he
Oh,
dropped.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the day his dad blocked me. Yeah, I remember that because I said it was an uncalled catch. And it's like, hey, I officially joined the club now because Monty blocked me. All right, cool.
I've been blocked for Monte. I don't know when, but for a very long time. But boy, I gave Jalen Rager a lot of flowers on that game because he stood up and went to the podium. He actually went to the podium and addressed it and answered every question. I thought that was the highest point of Jalen Rager when it came to accountability. And you say, hey, maybe this guy's starting to get it. Yeah, but he never turned it around. But
2020
shame.
but
But Monty, unblock us. Yeah, we weren't wrong. We weren't unfair. Yeah.
Chris, how much can you take from this game defensively? Like, is it something you build on, or is it so hard to do that because it's like Deshaun Watson is like as inept as it gets, and they're just not a good offense, or do you see things there that you can build on and look to improve upon?
The one thing I thought was interesting when I was talking to Jalen Carter was that he said the guys learned to trust each other a little bit more in terms of like when it comes to the rushes and the stunts and that they're going to be there. And you saw the production that they got yesterday, even if it was against the Browns. So I think that's a good foundation for them to go, you know what? These stunts worked this time. All right, maybe we could try it again. They start believing a little bit more, and the guys are going to be in certain areas. So I think that went a long way in terms of their confidence. I think it went a long way to believing what Vic wants them to do. And so they rushed that in terms of rushing that way. So I think there's something you could take in terms of that. Everything else probably much just like, all right, nah. And I even say that after the Browns give up as many sacks as they did before they even faced the Eagles. So I think that's to me, it's the only thing. Like, all right, you got these defensive linemen trusting what they're doing, build upon that, and see if they consistently do it, and then maybe you start to get something there. I mean, also Bryce Huff got a half a sack. It's better than zero.
There we go.
It's the little things here. There. I thought he was going to get a full one. I was joking around talking to my colleagues Bob Brookover and King Steele, and I was like, I think he gets a sack today. I'll take a half. All right, glad. Yeah, all right,
I still think they might take it away from him. I thought that should have been Cooper's sack.
We set the over under.
They may look at the film and give it all to Cooper.
We set the over under right at half a sack, so he got a push, John. Which is
I hope they give it to Bryce. I hope they keep it on him. But
if anybody has him in fantasy and those IDPs and everybody see that happen, I finally got some value, and they take it away. I think he'll start hearing a lot of like glasses and phones breaking, people going to the stores to get them fixed. Like, I finally got something out of it. What's going on?
By the way, I think it was the third one in. Morrow should have got the sack, and then Cooper came in and should have got the sack and got a half a sack, and then he was the third one in, I believe.
How about the way Morrow was playing yesterday?
He was playing.
He was really disrupt. Like, between the fact, like a lot of their talents in the middle, you just need somebody outside. Williams, but the way Booker has played in the last few weeks, like the last few games. They got a lot of talent defensive tackle. Just wish the
Morrow got a good grade. You know who had the best grade on the Eagles defense? Again, not official, but Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis. But he only played 21 reps. Yeah. So a lot of passing for Cleveland. Morrow had 21 as well. It was Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Morrow Jomo. Those are your best 4 Eagles.
Smith was another one in terms of setting the edge on the run game. Like they're trying to run wide. They didn't have that much success doing that. So
your 4 worst: C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Isaiah Rodgers, Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean. Those are your 4 worst. Offensively, if you want them, 1 through 4, shocker at number 1, A.J. Brown. Number 2, Jordan Mailata before the injury. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Number 4, Jahan Dotson. The 4 worst Eagles.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think. Like, I know he had that catch, but like, is it for like the blocking aspect or route running? Because
he only had 22 reps. So
yeah, that's what I'm like.
But in those 22 reps, so the 4th worst was Saquon Barkley, then Jack Stoll, then Fred Johnson in limited reps. And then, shockingly, this is a shocker to me because I didn't notice that he had a terrible game. Cam Jurgens.
Jurgens got away with that on that Devontae Smith touchdown. They had the Cleveland Brown. I think I forget his name. Had a legitimate gripe for.
Oh
one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
hands
yeah,
up face
yeah, yeah.
penalties.
Oh, he was really upset.
Legit gripe for
Yeah,
it. It was also,
you're right. You're right. Yeah,
goes to the
he got
karate
his, he got
upshot
his
with the
face
helmet.
mask pulled off. Yeah,
Yeah.
he got his
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
helmet pulled off. Yeah,
Yeah, it
you're
was-
right.
it was rough.
And of course, they never showed the replay of that. So if that was Cam, yeah, that probably hurt it. Plus, he had the bad snap as well that Jalen was able to recover. But those are your early. Those were the good and the bad. AJ, the best player overall. Shocker. At C Franklin News. That's like he's like our AJ Brown. Always
available. Always available. Not always open. Always available.
Always
Don't do
open.
something like that.
I say always open. NJ.com. People take it the wrong way if you're always available. You know.
Yeah, never mind. Pause. Never mind. Nah, pause. No. Like, always available for interviews. There you go. For that.
Yeah. NJ.com. Go read. Chris does a tremendous job at C Franklin News on the X platform.
Chris, thanks, man. Appreciate you joining in.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah,
thanks, buddy.
Good stuff from Chris Franklin joining us on Birds 365. John, we're coming to the end of the show. I am surprised at how much Nick Sirianni is dominating the conversation.
Oh,
Even here on
you're
Birds
surprised by that?
I am a little bit. I said on the post game, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be the headline. I thought it would last a little bit. It's dominating, John. It's everywhere. ESPN's clowning on him. FS1's clowning on him. JAKIB is clowning on him. We're all doing it, everybody. I mean, this is, and now I start to wonder, boy.
I'm not clowning on him, but I do.
Well, you did say it was an immature decision, didn't you?
Oh, well, yeah. The yelling at the fans. I mean, that's all though. I mean, the other stuff, like I mentioned this on the post-game show last night. Like people, like if you're gonna take that 3rd and 1. He took the play call away from Kellen Moore, and he took a play call from Big Pan, and then he decided to not even tell us what it was. He was about to say on a bad play. I mean, he's doing it on purpose. I can't help it. I mean, he's finding what essentially is the hot button play and saying, "Oh, that's my fault." I mean, that's what he's doing. He's falling on his sword on purpose. And yeah, Kellen Moore's calling the offense, guys. He's calling the offense.
Nick Sirianni's certainly not calling the defense. That's for damn sure.
I mean, he's calling the offense. I'm very comfortable in saying that. And you can read into that what you want. But yeah, I mean, he's snowing you if you believe that.
No doubt. John, your final takeaways. We got about 5 minutes left to go here on the show today. Jarrell is adamant. Villain Nick is activated. I like it. Jarrell, 2 super chats real quick. Vonnie says, AJ GOAT Eagle wide receiver yet or no? I don't think you can go there yet. I mean, the Eagles don't have like this crazy past of receivers. Now they got some good guys. They got
they got Hall of Famers. They got
Harold Carmichael. I mean, from a yards perspective, I mean, AJ Brown's already.
I don't care about stats. What I say, best ever has to do with longevity and all. And like I said, Tommy's in the Hall of Fame. Harold's in the Hall
Tommy McDonald, Harold Carmichael, Mike Quick's up there.
AJ is, and that's how I described it with AJ and Devontae. They're the most talented tandem the Eagles have ever had by far, and AJ by himself is by far the most talented Eagles receiver they've ever had. Now, it takes a little bit of longevity, but nobody, I always use the term with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and I'll use it, not term, but my phrase, my explanation. No one has ever played wide receiver at a higher level than A.J. Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles in what's still a short sample size, but nobody's played the game at a higher level.
No doubt. He is that talented, without a doubt. A couple more supers we'll get to before we get out of here. Brandon Snyder checks in. Time to draft a tight end. Only consistent thing you can say about Dallas Goedert is he will miss multiple weeks every year. That's true, John, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah, he's had some injury issues, and now we'll see. But it certainly seems like is a hamstring. That's what it was announced. If you look at that route and in fact, I was watching that play and I go, what the hell is Dallas doing? No sense of urgency to that route. And then it's because he was hurt. Yeah, I mean, it's fair. And he's going to be 30 in early January. So, I mean, they drafted him in the second round when Zach Ertz was younger than Dallas is now. So, yeah, it's fair to say they'll probably be looking to draft a tight end in the upcoming years pretty quickly.
Brian checks in. Jalen Hurts checked into a 7-step drop in that 3rd and 1 sack, but no one wants to bring it up. Thoughts?
Again, that was the play that Nick fell on his sword for. If it was a check, I know he admitted the check because it was a successful one, the AJ at the end of the game. He's checking a lot. He's checking, and they've given him more autonomy, and that's what he wanted. And that's why it should be, at least people should pause before they want to assign blame to Kellen Moore or Nick Sirianni, because sometimes it is the quarterback. I didn't ask about that particular play, so I don't know 100%. But Kellen, we'll get to talk to Kellen tomorrow. He'll get asked about that play quite a bit. You had so much with Nick, you had so much to deal with. But it'll be more about the game with Kellen tomorrow, and he certainly will have to answer questions about it. Now, he's going to try to protect Jalen Hurts as well, but I'll ask him when we get Jalen again if he checked out. I don't know if he'll answer it, but I'll ask him.
Yeah, good stuff there. John, your final takeaways, man, from this game. It was a weird overreaction Monday this week, without a doubt. I thought it was.
Yeah, it's almost the game was secondary. I mean,
Yeah.
the game was secondary to the actions of the coaches at a press conference, which is, I mean, the positive part, as I said, the NFC East is terrible. They won a football game. They're in good position. They're moving forward with another bad team, with another bad offense. They have time to figure things out, and especially offensively. They just have to clean up some things. Now, there's some concern because you're going to have these injuries to Jordan Mailata and Dallas Goedert, so that might affect things dramatically. But, with AJ back and Devontae back, that should keep getting better and better. If the quarterback can just not turn it over, if that can become consistent like it was in the past, this is going to be a pretty easy division to win. And again, then you take your chances.
I still think Washington's pretty legit. I got to be honest.
Well, I think they're the toughest challenge in the division.
Yeah,
and
for
that's
sure.
a positive because you were expecting Dallas to be much better. And they, as much as I like Jaden Daniels, he's still a rookie, and you have Vic Fangio, and you should be able to do some things that would at least confuse him a little bit. So, I mean, it's the NFL. Everybody's got tests. Minnesota's probably sitting there at 5-0 going, what do we have to do to shake these guys behind us?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got tough tests. That's what the NFL is. So the Eagles have lighter tests than a lot of teams. And they should take advantage of that.
No doubt. Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. Appreciate the show today. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Big shout out to Jarrell for their support today, man. He drops another Hunter burger. He dropped one yesterday too, John. So Jarrell is out here really supporting. So thank you,
Jarrell.
Appreciate all of our super chats today, not just Jarrell, but James Carver, D. Hughes checked in with a super, Prince, M. Martine, Brandon Snyder, Brian Pumper. Appreciate all you guys. James Carver, I mentioned, Brian Garner, and Mark Valor. So appreciate all of you guys for the support today. Johnny Mac, we'll catch you tomorrow on Birds 365. All right, brother?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Catch you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.